When I was around 16, my dad was into criminal things, drugs. The house would get raided. This isn't how I wanted my life to be. So I started in the style, and the business was valued at £100 million.
Charlotte Crosby really
$100 million.
Post-COVID, and there was less interest around fashion businesses, and Boohoo, ASOS starting to decline. The team at the time, they were kind of like, we're going to have to possibly shut down, but I thought, I can't let this slip away now. And then we focused on the stock market. I did become a millionaire, but the reality was everything changed. I've never really spoken in detail about it. I got a legal letter for the first time. We're suing Adam Frisby for £100 million because he stole this idea from this guy. Although I was ultimately the heart of the business, I didn't have a say. People were crying down the phone to me saying, Adam, we're not being paid. I looked online and I saw the business being sold. I loved it so much and I hoped that I would always be part of it. But in the end, I sent a letter of resignation. I surrendered all of my shares and I left. And I never heard back ever.
I can see that everything that's happened in your life has led you to this point. You're going to be a dad.
And we're bringing a child into the world that is going to have so much love. My biggest fear in life is that I'm not a good dad.
You both will be winning Father of the Year consistently. I have no doubt. A quick one for me before we get into it. I want to say thank you, genuinely thank you. It means so much that you're here. The team and I put a lot into these conversations, and seeing how much they're resonating is really amazing to see. If you've been enjoying what we do, we'd love for you to follow the show by clicking the subscribe button or hit that bell icon. It takes a second, but it makes a huge difference. Now, let's get into it. Adam Frisby, we need to talk.
Yes.
Okay. So when you think back, what was your earliest memory as a child?
If I'm really honest, when I think back to my childhood, I struggle sometimes because I've blocked so much of it out. And yeah, I wanna say, like, you know, it wasn't horrendous in the sense of, you know, I had no abuse, I had nothing like that. You know, there's people that have gone through much worse situations. But I think for me, I just remember I grew up in I think a surroundings where I didn't really feel a lot of love, if that makes sense, at home. And I think my earliest memory is just really, I think, like my mum and me just arguing all the time, even from as young as like 6, 7, 8 years old. But I also, on the flip side, you know, I have a memory at a very similar time of having a really nice Christmas with my family, my nan and granddad being there. And, you know, there were some really nice memories as well.
When you now reflect back on childhood
Yeah.
and the relationship that you had with your parents, or lack of relationship, you know, maybe with your father, how do you think that that time shaped who you've become?
I just remember being very lost as a child, not knowing who to turn to, where to go, what to do. And obviously, you know, finding out I was kind of gay as well, come to terms with that. And I think that's made me more of a fighter today, if that makes sense. It's made me more determined to achieve something. It's made me, it's definitely shaped who I am hugely.
At 13, your family moved.
So I came home from school one day and my mum just said, we are going to Gran Canaria. We're moving to Gran Canaria. And if I remember rightly, I think it was literally the next day, maybe the day afterwards. But we, you know, things were packed up. I remember saying, where's my BMX, you know? And she was like, we've sold it. And it was so crazy. And, you know, I was really scared as a kid because I loved school. Well, I loved my education and I was conscious that I wanted to achieve something in my life. And, you know, that was my first thing that kind of hit me. But more than that, I was really close to my nan and my family. And I was like, what am I going to do? So that was a really traumatic event for me. My family were concerned. And I remember my nan, you know, in the evening before kind of coming over and asking questions like what's going to happen with the boys and, you know, are they going to go to school? And we were promised we'd go to an English school and, you know, it would be great. And they'd come over and we'd come back and visit. And, you know, I thought, well, I've got no choice, you know, we've kind of got to do it. So we moved there, but none of that happened. You know, we got put into a Spanish school quite quickly. And nobody spoke English. So we were literally...
And you didn't speak Spanish?
I didn't speak any Spanish, no. So we literally were like doing crosswords, drawing pictures. Like it was really bad. And I think we were a few days in, and because we didn't speak any English and we were like the new kids in school, like we got quite badly bullied. Like we'd go out in the playground and we'd get stones thrown at us. And it got really bad that me and my brother ended up skiving off school for like the entire 6 months that followed. And I'm sure that, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure my mum knew about it because the school would have contacted her, right? So we just used to go 8 o'clock, leave the house, go sit in a park somewhere and literally wait until 1 or I think it was 1:30, the school finished, and go home. And we did that every day for like 6 months.
What's so incredible and sad at the same time about that is that you and your brother was how old? You were 13.
So he was 18 months younger than me. So yeah, he was about, like just 11 and a half, 12. Yeah.
Two young guys.
Yeah.
Actually, almost the age of my boys. They're 14 and 11, and I cannot imagine them deciding to do something like that.
Yeah.
But
exactly,
that's why it's almost incredible that you were able to decide that. But sad because it feels like there was no one that you can go to that you felt safe to be able to say, hey, we're being bullied at school.
Yeah, totally. And home was really bad at the time. I remember, what I will say is, with my mum, like, I look back and I understand how hard it must have been trying to raise 4 children and, my dad leaving. And, for a long, long time, I was really, really angry at her because of, our relationship and everything. But I think over time, I'd sort of let that go, and it's more kind of sadness now, really. And I remember that I used to write letters to my nan to kind of let her know how I was feeling and how down I was about it. And I found out, months and months later that those letters never got sent. They went to my mum to be put a stamp on, and they never actually made it to my nan. So yeah, it was a time where I felt so isolated and there was nothing I could do, and I couldn't even speak to the people I loved because I had no phone. I got maybe a phone call a week, and my mum would sort of sit there and listen to everything. So I felt very trapped at that stage, and looking back, it was a really traumatic time for me. Yeah.
My God, how long were you in Spain?
So we went to Spain for, I can't remember exactly, but we were there for like maybe 6 to 12 months originally. And what actually happened was I ended up moving back to the UK, and I lived with my sister, my older sister, for a little while. So she knew what was going on at that point. She'd come over to visit. I don't think she was very happy. She said to my mum, like, these boys need to be back in the UK. Let's try and get them in school. And my mum kind of let us go with my sister, which I was just thrilled about at the time.
Sure.
But my sister was young. I mean, I can't remember her age at the time, but she would have been in early 20s. So she was kind of finding her feet and had her lifestyle, and it was chaotic, there's no doubt. But she tried her best, and we lived with her for a while. And I got to a point, I think at this point I must have been 14 and a half maybe, and or maybe even 15, and I'd started seeing a therapist at the time. My nan we were back in the UK, and my nan had put me in to kind of see a counsellor therapist, and they'd put me on some antidepressants, and I was in a really low place because obviously for me, my mum didn't really want us, and I was living with my sister who had her own sort of life going on, and I didn't go to school at this point. I had no friend. I knew I was gay and no one knew, so it's a very chaotic time in my life.
You said you knew you were gay.
Yeah.
But no one else did.
No one knew, no. I knew I was gay, I think, from a young age. I'd say probably like 9, 10. I just knew it was a little bit different. And I knew, like, it sounds probably strange to say, but like, I probably just had certain connections when I would meet certain boys or whatever. And I think, that feels a bit stronger than a friendship. Like I don't know, I feel something. It's a bit strange. So I kind of just tried to hide it for a long time. But deep down, I kind of knew that I was, but I just didn't feel comfortable enough to tell anyone. And I think people knew, I used to, obviously my brother used to take the mickey and be like, you're gay, mate, or whatever, in a jokey way as you would as siblings. I think my sister kind of had an inkling, and probably the family, you kind of do sometimes. But yeah, I was too scared to kind of say anything, and I was trying to come to terms with it myself really at the time.
Yeah. So how did you, and when did you come to terms with it?
It took me a very long time. I would say I didn't really truly come to terms with it until I met Jamie, really.
How old were you there, Adam?
I was 24, 25 when I met Jamie, yeah.
Okay, I think so.
Yeah.
So until you were 24,
you
never felt truly happy in who you knew you were.
Yeah, I felt ashamed, yeah. I felt ashamed of being gay for a long time. And I don't truly know why, because I had gay people in my family. My uncle was gay. My sister ended up coming out as a lesbian. So I did have people around, but I just carried that shame. And I think in truth, it stemmed from childhood and not feeling very wanted. And I think that in addition made me feel like I'm going to feel even less wanted.
I would imagine as a 15-year-old who already doesn't feel safe, who feels marginalized, you don't want to at all
Yeah.
signal to anyone
Yeah.
that there's something else that could be
Yeah.
different about you.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that therefore you could be further
Yeah.
marginalized.
Exactly. Yeah.
What seems to me is that you were at a place where you were just looking for an escape.
Yeah.
Was there any joy in your life as a young boy?
No, there wasn't truly. And like I say, I don't want to, there's people that go through so much worse, but I think, I just was a really lost young boy.
And I guess to make matters worse, did your mother kick you out of the house?
So that was really the last I sort of had a relationship with my mum, really. So I was 15 years old, and we probably had an argument. I was never a bad kid. I never did drugs. I never lied. I never did anything bad in that sense. I just probably was a little bit hard work because I was struggling myself at times, and we just used to argue.
But can we expand on that? Is that when you said you were hard work?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, to be honest with you, it doesn't really mean anything. I think I was just a kid. I think I was just a teenager. And honestly, when I see teenagers now, I think I wasn't half as bad as that. And I think the only thing I really wanted was to feel a bit of love, really. And I didn't. So I probably used to fight for that a little bit, So we used to argue a lot. And I just remember one day I got my things packed. And she said, "You go and get out." And they drove me to the train station. They give me 50p on the platform. They said to me, "Yeah, you use that to ring your nan when you get to the train station, and that's it. You're on your way." So I was on the train to Norwich, and I got to the train station, and I rang my nan when I got there, and she came and picked me up from the train station. And that was kind of the end of my relationship with my mum, really. And I went to sleep on my nan's. My nan put a mattress on a kitchen floor because my uncle was living with her still at the time, so she had no kind of spare room. So I was there for a few weeks, really, just kind of thinking, wow, what the hell am I going to do with my life? I've got no GCSEs, I've got no parents around, and I don't know what to do. And I remember that being a real kind of crossroads of like, shit, this is going to be tough now. Yeah,
I can't fathom what it's like to be a 15-year-old boy. And to be literally kicked out of the house, right?
Yeah.
So when you were given the money, if you feel comfortable going there,
sure.
What were you thinking? What was going on in your mind as this scenario was playing out?
I think I was just pleased to escape from what was a really toxic time because my mum's boyfriend and I really didn't get on. I remember before I got kicked out being held by my throat against the fridge, and like it was really toxic. So I was pleased to be out of it.
So then you're temporarily with them.
Yeah.
I would imagine it's temporary.
Yeah, it was temporary. It was really temporary, actually. I was there for a few weeks, and my nan sort of said to me, "Look, I think you should try and make contact with your dad because, we can't have you here forever. And what are you going to do down here?" It was in Great Yarmouth at the time, and I grew up, and there wasn't loads of opportunities there and whatnot. So she was like, "I think you need to try and contact your parents." So I did contact my dad. I made contact with him, and for whatever reason, in the end, he did kind of agree that he would see me, and we kind of met up, and one thing led to another, and he kind of agreed that I could go and stay with him for a bit.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so I was nervous. I remember being nervous because he'd not been in my life at all. So I didn't know my dad whatsoever. But it was kind of a bit like, okay, I've got, someone here that's interested, that wants to take me in.
Was this the first time that you'd seen your dad?
You're not the first time I'd ever seen him. Like there had been bits where, I don't know, like maybe when I was younger, he'd turn up once at the house and I'd kind of seen him and, but I never spent time with him or anything like that. It was just very much like in passing or something. So it was the first time that I'd properly met him. Yeah.
Okay.
And he had four daughters, which I kind of knew about growing up because you obviously get told, but I didn't really know the full extent. And he was with the lady that the woman that he left my mum for, so they were still together. And he said I could come and stay with him for a bit and see how we got on. So I was happy that I had an option, if that makes sense at the time.
Yeah.
I started to apply for jobs straight away, and I remember I got an interview at Burger King and I managed to get a job there. So I was thrilled because I was like, this is great, I can earn some money. It was amazing, really. So for the first few weeks, I felt, I think, content, happy. I remember reporting back to my nan being like, yeah, this is like quite good, really, yeah.
Yes. When you look at just those first few weeks, do you feel as if you were happy?
I think I was happier than I'd been for a long time. I was still uncomfortable because, I was struggling with my sexuality at the time. And I was then at that age of like coming into 16, just turning 16, where, you start to explore it a little bit more, maybe. I was speaking to someone online at the time because obviously, that's the only way I could really sort of chat. And there was like online chats and stuff. And yeah, I started speaking to a guy through that, but I kind of made a girl's name up at the time. And I remember telling, my dad and her that I kind of been speaking to this girl. I've been sort of going to go meet her, and it turned in, it was a girl, but in reality it was a boy. And I did that for probably a good 2 years.
Wow. So you had to keep it even secret, I would imagine, in the town.
Yeah, everything. Yeah,
Couldn't be in public.
No, we just used to go and like meet somewhere, meet for coffee. Like I used to, we just never went to each other's houses or anything like that. And because I hadn't come out to my family, even like my nan and granddad at that point, I kept it secret from them. I told them the girl's name, and it wasn't because I felt they would be ashamed, but I think it was just obviously where I was in my life. I wasn't yet comfortable to tell people. And eventually I kind of did tell my nan was the first person. Yeah.
When you told your nan, what was her response?
It was a really emotional call because I wasn't with her at the time. I was obviously at my dad's, and I think what had happened is I think my uncle had said something. So my uncle was gay, and I think he'd sort of said something around me being gay, and I think there was a question that had come up in the family, and I thought, you know what, I need to be able to do this myself. I don't want her to find out for other people. And so I rung her and I sort of said, this girl that I've been talking to you about, it's not a girl, it's a guy. And yeah, she got really upset and I got upset, but in a nice way. She was like, you really didn't have to worry about this. And I felt a huge amount of relief because I'd carried it for a number of years, feeling like I was ashamed of who I was and people wouldn't accept it. So to kind of be able to sort of tell the person I was closest to, and then being so supportive of it made me think, it's not so bad out there. I can kind of be myself more. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
To be able to say that to someone that you love.
Yeah.
And know that their love is truly unconditional.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned, Adam, that first few weeks were good at your father's, but then it took a turn. So how so?
Yeah. I realized probably after a few weeks that they were kind of into more criminal things is the only way I can describe it. Wow. Really. The house would get raided sometimes. There was things going on, drugs, things being stolen. It got a bit hectic. And that kind of happened, and I was a bit worried about what I was going to do. And I think there was a couple of conversations that happened about getting me involved in things. And I would just remember thinking, do I do this or do I do my own path? And I, even at that young age, at 16, I knew like my morals and values were very important to me. And I just, like, doing the right thing was always important. So I just knew I was never going to do that. And I think it just started to get uncomfortable because things start to mix a little bit, like I start to get questions of like, do you think you could do this at where you work for me? And it started to become uncomfortable. And so very quickly I kind of, ended up moving in with a friend that I'd made at the time from working.
So you moved in with a friend.
Yeah.
Now this is an interesting word.
Yeah.
Because I've not heard you use that word.
Yeah, I made a friend, I know,
yeah. So you had a friend.
Yeah. I made a few friends actually at work, and I think getting in a workplace was a really positive thing for me.
Now you just mentioned 16 is when really your life changed. That was, I would imagine that's a major inflection point for you at 16.
Yeah.
And it's what put you on the path of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So how so? How did you then, or should I say, begin your entrepreneurial journey at 16?
So Burger King, ironically, like really played a big part in my life. It did. And, when there's ever any talk of the business now, people say, Burger King to, and it's like, it didn't quite happen that, like that.
Burger King to millionaire.
Yeah, it didn't quite work like that. But it really shaped me. And I got really enjoyment out of sort of working hard and earning money from it and thinking, okay, this is how life works. And I really enjoy this. And very quickly, like, they were really impressed with me and gave me more hours. And I remember, I think before 17, I'd become one of like the youngest regional supervisor or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I was chuffed with that. I was like, this is such an achievement, and it kind of made me hungry to achieve more, if that makes sense. I was like, this is something that was shouted about, I think, through, you know, you get emails through the system or whatever, and you know, it was like, congratulations to Adam, he's Employee of the Month, he's done this, he's done that, and I really felt reward from that, if that makes sense. It was like, great, I've done hard work and I've been recognised for it. And I probably hadn't through my childhood much, so I think that really felt like, okay, I've achieved something here. Yeah, and then I went for a job at Barclays, which, you know, I can say this now, but I completely lied on my CV, you know, about GCSEs and hoped that I would get away with it, and I did. And at, I think 17 and a half, probably, I became a cashier at Barclays.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the next few years really at Barclays really shaped my career, because I became a personal banker, where I was kind of advising people on, you know, bank accounts and stuff like that. Yeah.
So when you were at Barclays,
Yeah.
at that highest level, how old were you at that time?
So I think by the age of 18, I think I'd become a personal banker at Barclays, which was a really, you know, good job. I loved it.
Yes.
Had my own desk kind of in the bank hall, and yeah, would speak to customers. I was 18. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I mean, look at that though.
Yeah.
18, you're making, I'm sure, good money.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah.
You have a friendship circle.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah, I was really coming into my own. I moved to Manchester at 19, and I was there for a few years until I then started in the style.
Okay. When do you first have the idea to create this company?
So there was no big plan with it. I got made redundant, and I got paid my month's salary and an additional month on top. And I had no idea what I was going to do next. And I just was chatting to a friend at the time, and we were talking about like online brands that were kind of coming up, and, you know, fashion being sold on Facebook and things like that. And it just clicked. And I remember thinking, social media's on the rise. Like I've seen these people selling fashion online. It was quite cheap at the time. I thought, there's something in this. It doesn't look difficult. And I just started researching straight away. I was researching where you could buy dresses from, you know, for cheaper and sell them for more. Yeah, and I would say in one afternoon, it literally just happened. Because I remember Jamie coming back from work. He worked in travel at the time, and he came back from work, and I told him about this idea, and we had a big argument, because he thought that I'd planned it for weeks and weeks, and I hadn't told him about it. And he was just a bit like, how can you not tell me about this? And I was like, Jamie, I literally just decided this afternoon. He's like, there's no way you've got all this together, and you've got an idea, and you've got a name, and you've done this in one afternoon. But I genuinely had. It just clicked. It just kind of clicked in place, and I just thought, this is what I'm going to do.
Wow. So yeah, that was one hell of an afternoon.
Yeah, that really was. That really was an afternoon, and it was, you know, when I started it, it was nothing what it became. You know, the initial idea was kind of sell some dresses online and make some money from it, and let's see where we can go. Like, it really was a very early concept, but I just knew very early on that I felt I could make it a success.
Now, why? And then also, why do you believe you could make it a success? And then also, why choose that route? So, for example, why ladies' dresses versus men's trousers?
Yeah. So really, the truth is that the route into In The Style was the easiest route. And by that, I mean, I researched wholesalers where you could go down to a wholesale and you could buy 6 dresses at like a cost price. And then you could sell them online at 3 times the price, ultimately. That's literally the initial concept. And men's clothing was much harder to find. And I didn't have the money to kind of go and manufacture my own clothes or make anything from scratch. So it literally started from me going in a shop and purchasing 6 dresses. And just listing them on a website, which I got Jamie's sister to build. Cost me £100 or whatever. She probably did it free at the time, bless her. And I remember I spent some money on printing 1,000 leaflets with the name of the brand and an off discount on it. And I physically went up and down Market Street in Manchester and handed them out myself on August bank holiday and launched the website.
Look at that.
Yeah. I got one order. But that one order was enough for me to think, I can make this work.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Now, how does it feel? Because, I remember my entrepreneurial journey, and the first sale is just like, it hits different.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
How did that first sale hit for you?
It was amazing because it really felt like something that I had done. Even though the concept initially was sort of buying dresses from a wholesale and selling them online, I'd kind of used my initiative. I'd use my own money. I'd kind of bought these dresses. I'd print the leaflets. I'd hand them out, and someone was buying from this little thing that I'd set up.
How much money did you have when you started in the style?
So I started in the style with about £1,000.
£1,000.
Yeah, and I know that because I physically put that into a separate business account I'd set up, and I put £1,000 in, and yeah, that's all I ever used to start it. Yeah, I spent a little bit on leaflets, a little bit on stock, yeah, and then I sold the dresses, and that's how it sort of started. Yeah.
So then, tell me about the growth of the company. And I'm a super nerd on these things, so walk me through like how you built this company.
So for the first 3 months, I remember reaching out to a lot of celebrities on Twitter, because Twitter was huge at the time. And I remember going out to a lot of celebrities and sort of saying, "Can I gift you this dress?" And look, when I look back, those dresses were tacky. They were really bad. But at the time, that was all I could do. So I reached out to some celebrities, and
Who'd you reach out to?
I remember, Geordie Shore was big at the time. Towie was a lot. And I remember actually, Sophie from Geordie Shore, she was one of the first people to ever wear the brand. And I gifted her a jacket. That was my first ever £1,000 day of sales, because she wore the jacket. And I was absolutely thrilled. And at the time, we did everything from my flat. I was with Jamie at the time, obviously, and we had printer in the hallway, and we used to print off the orders, just used to fall into the hallway, and I used to go and pack the parcels up myself and send them to the post office. And I remember we were thrilled, and we just rang the supplier and was like, "Can we get more? Can we get more?" And it just kind of, that was a real point for me where I was like, wow, I can link up celebrity with social media and this brand, and there's something that I can really do here. And I'd say that's when it really hit for me. The pin really dropped.
I feel as if, Adam, you were ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that model that you just described is what many people do now, but they were not doing it then.
Yeah.
And what year is this that we're talking about?
So this was 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was very early days. I mean, I think at the time of starting in the style, I'd only just joined Instagram myself. So Instagram was very kind of new. I think it'd been around a couple of years, but it wasn't like a big platform at that point, as much as Twitter, for example. And influencers weren't really a thing then either. It was kind of celebrities, and then bloggers started. Influencers kind of became a thing later down the line. So yeah, it was really early on, and we jumped onto it pretty quickly, and that's what really excelled growth.
So who was the first celebrity that you did you said a range with?
Yeah.
Who was the first one?
The first person was Lauren Pope, who was in The Only Way is Essex at the time. So there was a little bit of in the market, I would say, with fashion brands, there was a little bit of snobbery at the time. Like, these were reality stars and you didn't really want to have stuff seen on them. Whereas I saw it as the opposite. I was like, these are relatable people that actually, these women that are 18 to 30 or whatever are watching these people, and that's what they want to wear, and they relate to them. So I thought they're missing a trick here. So I kind of started to really reach out to these people. And yeah, Lauren Pope was one of the first that I got a meeting with. And I obviously made the business sound better than it was at the time. Of course, like I was in my flat, packing the orders myself, but they didn't have to really know that at the time. That was minor information. And I sort of said to her, and she told me afterwards, like, she really believed in my vision and my enthusiasm and trusted me. And she just felt that straight away. And so she signed with the brand. And I remember at the time I signed it and I thought, shit, because this is real now. And I didn't really have any fund. I had no funding. So obviously to manufacture a range was going to cost a chunk of money.
Yes.
So I started to reach out to like some people, close people, banks, a friend of mine, just to see if there was any option of like getting £10,000 in, for example, to help the range. In the end, my friend, a good friend of mine at the time, sort of, who's well off and invested a few £1,000s into the business. And that helped me get my first range off the ground. He obviously later was, really rewarded with that when the business, went on the stock market. So it's the best investment he ever made. But I was so grateful at the time because he believed in me when a lot of people didn't. And it was a way for me to raise money without having a huge interest on it.
Yes.
And that was the first range. And then it catapulted from there, really. We launched Lauren. It was great. And then the next person was Charlotte Crosby.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah. And I think Charlotte was it was early days and she was just going through a fitness journey, and she'd just done Big Brother, actually. So she was she was big. And I remember thinking, wow. And I went in and met her, and yeah, I remember she ordered chips and gravy. She spilled it all down her, and I just thought, what the hell am I doing here? But we just connected really well, and she became the second collaboration of In the Style, and then from then it just went.
It just kind of. So in these ranges that you pitched, Lauren and then Charlotte, it was for them or for you to co-design what exactly with them, and then if you can you even disclose financially what the structure was?
Yes, of course. So yeah, the idea was, and I think what really worked within the style right up to the end was that it was so authentic, and I wanted it to feel authentic all the time. It wasn't a case of, we'll give you some money, put your name to this. It was like, we want you to come in, work with me and the suppliers and create a collection that truly is you, that you would wear. You get your say in it, and you'll get rewarded for sales. And I think early on it was like 25, it ended up being 25% of the profit that they got from the range. So they got well funded, it wasn't a huge amount of stress for them, and it was a great reward, depending on how much they sold. And it was great for the business. And obviously we were able to mark the stock up a little bit more than we had done before, because we had celebrity's name attached to it. Exactly. And we were manufacturing it ourselves as well, so we were getting cheaper cost prices than we would from wholesale. So it worked really, really well. And yeah, they were rewarded for it. But yeah,
I think, it's so interesting to me because it feels like this is done all the time now.
Yeah.
But at that time, it was the first.
Yeah, it really was in that way, yeah.
So on that note, here is your first surprise, Adam. You ready?
Okay, yeah.
All right.
Surprise! I wanted to do this video. I just think I'm going to start crying. I wanted to do this video as a surprise. And you already know all of these things, Adam. I'm just going to have to try and calm down a second, because this is really hard. You really do mean the world to me and the girls and everyone in your life. I know you mean the world to Jamie, and I just want you to know you should just be so proud of yourself. I know how excited you were to do this podcast. The very first time I met you, at that very first meeting, who would have thought over 10 years ago that right now we'd have gone through all our wild partying years, all of our businessy years, all of our serious years, heartbreak, well, on my end, not on yours. You absolutely given us the best advice the whole way through life, and now you're the godparent of my children, and now we get to go through this stage of life together and have our young kids grow up together. What the hell? I'm just so happy. Oh, and I don't think I'll ever stop crying about this. I'm just so happy that literally every single part of life we've got to just do it together, and it's just made my whole year. And I love you so much, and I hope that you're having a great time with Paul. Hi, Paul. Miss you. I'm going to go now.
Oh, bless her. That is, that's really nice, yeah. We have Charlotte, yeah, it's crazy. We to think when I met her and how intertwined we are with each other's life now is just crazy, yeah. Yeah, she's such a lovely girl in character, and yeah, it means a lot to me and Jamie, yeah.
Yeah, she's super. She's super.
Yeah, you would have obviously worked for her at times, yeah.
Absolutely. I found her to be so incredibly warm, and kind in a industry where not everyone is kind.
Yeah,
she truly is kind.
Yeah, she really is, and what you see is what you get with her, and that's why I think we built a friendship over time, because we just were so natural with each other, and it just naturally happened. But yeah, she's really a lovely lady.
Yeah. So look at that.
Yeah.
So you could see, even by that you were not just establishing business partnerships. Yeah. You were establishing partnerships.
Yeah.
And these celebrities trusted you.
Yeah.
And so that you continued to grow, because I saw that, we had Lorna Lux on. Yeah. I think that did you do her first range?
Yeah, she was with In the Style for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was her first, obviously she's got her brand now, but that was her first, collaboration she did, yeah. Yeah. Look at that. We worked with so many, big names in the end over the years. Stacey Solomon was one, Jacqueline Josser, which she won the Jungle and then came and signed. And yeah, all these people trusted me. And it was the root of the success, really. You know, that we had so much trust with each other, and we built relationships, and that then, you know, that then helped the success of the Rangers and the company. Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
So the company grew and grew and grew and grew.
Yeah, the company grew so big, and I would say COVID was a really pivotal moment for the business because, you know, I'd looked at it and changed the business model completely, because obviously you had to. You know, it was lockdown, things were changing. We moved our collections, we changed it all around. So I think in our first year of In the Style, I'd got to £4 million of sales, which was incredible. You know, like
First year?
yeah, first year.
Look at that.
Yeah.
1,000 in,
Yeah,
4 million
Yeah.
in sales.
Yeah.
It's a minority of companies that are able to survive after, 1 year of business,
Yeah.
let alone more.
yeah,
Right. But you were able to do it.
Yeah.
So just from a business advice standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
for everyone who wants to become an entrepreneur, or maybe is in their early phase of entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
what advice would you give in that first year? Where are the areas that everyone should focus?
I think, well, firstly, anyone that wants to just go for it is a first, because I think so many people say things, and it is such a big thing to try and do, and believe in yourself and leap. But that believing in yourself and just going for it is the biggest thing. It's hard because in that first couple of years, I think resilience again comes down to it. Honestly, I knew nothing going into business at all. Like the roles that I was recruiting for after a couple of years, I didn't even know what they did. You know, I just had to learn, like wing it all on the job. And I think that's probably the biggest thing for me is like, you know, you don't need to have qualifications. You don't need to know certain things. If you've got an idea and you can believe in yourself, just go for it. And I think when you fall down, which you will many times, is, you know, dust yourself off and get back up and go for it. And that's what I did over and over and over the first few years, because there were so many setbacks and there were so many reasons to not continue. But I just believed in it and just kept getting back up and going again.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then let's talk about going into COVID.
Yeah.
You just mentioned your nan,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that it's important to, you know, look at the fact that you're growing this business.
Mm-hmm.
You've become successful as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
but you still have life
Yeah, absolutely.
going
Yeah.
on.
I really didn't have much of life going on, really. I must admit, you know, for the 10, 11 years I was in the Style, you know, it was my whole life. And I missed out on a lot of time with family and different things. And that was my fault because I was so focused on the goal and the business. But yeah, life was still lifing. And yeah, we hit COVID, and my nan passed away suddenly, actually. You know, she was very healthy in the sense of she looked amazing. She looked incredible. She was 81 and we just didn't expect it. She did have heart problems over the years, and, you know, she did suffer with her health, but it was still such a shock to us. And I remember, I think we'd gone into lockdown like 3 days or something, and I'd spoken to her the night before. My uncle rang Jamie actually and told him, and Jamie had to tell me. And I just remember at the time thinking, wow, like, because my nan to me was like my mum, really. She was the equivalent of my mum, and that hit me big time. And I think for the next 2-3 days, I struggled to even leave my room. I just couldn't cope with it. And then something just clicked in me, and I remember thinking, you know, I know how proud she was of me and this business. And she used to tell me all the time how proud she was of it. She just used to find it fascinating, amazing. And every time I went to visit her, she used to say, I'm so proud of you for doing this. And I knew how much she loved it. And I thought, I can't let this slip away now. You know, I need to be there and make this work. So it kind of created a bit of a fire in my stomach almost. And I was like, I know we're hitting COVID, and the voice I was getting, well, the team at the time, the board of directors and stuff that were on the board, and they were kind of like, we're going to have to possibly shut down, we're going to have to do this, we're going to have to reduce sales. And I was like, no guys, like I've got ideas, like let's try and do this. And we changed all the collections and did work from home collection, you know, different things going on, and the business just catapulted.
Wow, grew.
Yeah, it grew hugely.
During a period where you think it would have been on a decline.
Yeah.
During that COVID period.
It really grew. And it was really about just completely changing and pivoting the business model, like not the business model as such, but like, we'd had so many collections planned for summer and everything. And we were like, hang on a minute, what do people kind of need? We did loads of stuff. We raised money for NHS at the time. Like there was loads of things that we kind of did, and the brand just grew phenomenally. And I think, a lot of people on social media, of course, and yeah, it went, I think pre-COVID we were doing probably, we were doing well anyway, 30, 40 million of sales. Post, over the next year, we were doing 80 million in sales.
80 million in sales.
Yeah.
Post-COVID.
Yeah.
A period where many businesses were shutting down.
Yeah. Some fashion businesses really grew, and some fashion businesses, didn't. But yeah, we did, and it got to March 2021, and then we floated on the stock market.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Was that must be a moment that you'll never forget?
Do you know what? I feel bad saying this, but I kind of got convinced in a way to do it because, we had a board at the time, which was, had some directors on it, and they were like, look, Adam, we think this would be a great idea. And there was two reasons really from my perspective. One, of course, financial freedom for me and my family. Like I'd never really taken any money out of the business, even up to that point, which was like 8 years in. So that was, one opportunity that was going to be on the table. But bigger than that for me actually was that the business would be okay. Like we wouldn't need to get any more funding because it's on the stock market. You've got shareholders. So if you ever need to raise more money, you can via the stock market. So I was like, this is a win-win, really. It makes sense. But I was scared because I ran the business in my way. I could get my arms around it, and this was going to become a whole different ball game.
Yeah, because you'll have other owners, in essence, other equity holders.
Exactly. Essentially, it's no longer my company; it's a public company. Yeah, you have shareholders you're answerable to. You've got a big board that that comes in, and we knew there was going to be like potentially other heads, directors, lots of different things, and it was like, okay, this is going to become a lot, but it made sense. It made a lot of sense.
But you were reluctant to do it.
Yeah, initially I was reluctant to do it, but I was on board totally. By the end, I thought this is going to be a game changer for the business, and it's going to be life changing for me and my family, which is the goal, right, in life, in a way. So yeah, we did it, and I worked really, really hard over that year. And being honest, I put a lot of it down to my nan as well, like just having that fire in my stomach of like, we're going to get there, we're going to do this. She'd be so proud. I can help my family, which I always promised my nan I would. I always said to her, she used to say to me like, well, Adam, one day if you get rich, you can help me out, you can put me in a nice home. And we used to joke about it so much, but it was never really a joke to me. Like I always wanted to help her out.
Can I ask too, is when you go public, then what becomes the valuation of the company? How big is it?
So we floated on the stock market in March 2021, and the business was valued at £100 million. Yeah, £100 million.
Once again, from £1,000 to £100 million.
Yeah. But honestly, going back to your question, sorry, in the moment, everything changed. In reality, everything changed. I did become a millionaire from being, from that. My business was really well funded, which was incredible. It benefited so many people in lots of ways, and the business was changing. But the reality on the floor was I was working so hard. I was literally at burnout. I had not taken any sort of break or anything really from the business at all. And although I was so proud of the moment, I didn't feel what I thought I would feel, if that makes sense. I felt really numb. I think because the reality was my nan wasn't there to see it, and she was my biggest driver. And I think that I had so much work to do to get it there and post. It doesn't stop, you then got shareholders, the work really gets bigger. So I think I just remember being in a moment of like, this is amazing. And people, the outpour of like congratulations and, was amazing. But in the actual moment, I just felt numb. That's the only way I can describe it. And at this point, I'd realised, and I think Jamie had realised, that I'd hit burnout. And up until this point, if someone would have said to me, you work too hard or careful of burnout, I'd have been like, oh, burnout, whatever. I'm an entrepreneur. This is how it works.
Right.
And that last year really changed it for me because I'd realised that I had given everything to this business over 8 years and I had nothing left almost. I just was I'd worked myself into the ground ultimately. So when we did do the IPO and float on the stock market, before we did it, I'd kind of said to the guys, look, if we do this, I want to bring in a CEO because, it's bigger than me, this now. You know, I don't know how to deal with the stock market and shareholders. It's new to me, and I am absolutely burnt out. You know, I'll still be in the business. I'm still going to work as hard as I can, but I just need someone to help take it to that next level. And they agreed. You know, they wanted me to stay as CEO, but I was like, you know, this is the reasons, and they agreed and understood. So that was always kind of the plan when we floated on the stock market.
Hey, Paul, it's time to tell our listeners about our new show sponsor, Treatwell.
Let's talk nails then. I just had my manicure and pedicure too. And for those of you who might be a bit shocked to hear this, where have you been? I get it done because think about it. My hands are always being filmed, usually more than my face. So I've got to make sure they're always looking camera ready. But honestly, this is my tri-weekly reset, and I always book through Treatwell. You probably know it. It's Europe's #1 beauty booking app, where you can find 5-star salons near you, and you could book 24/7, even after midnight, just from your phone. And you could see real reviews from people who've actually been. They've got so many treatments available too. Nails, facials, massages. Last week, I tried a brow lamination. Now, I'm not sure I'd do that again, but you know what? The brows did look great. If you want to treat yourself to something new or try that treatment you keep seeing on TikTok, now's the time. Use code PAUL10 for 10% off your first booking when you go to a new salon, treatwell.com or through the Treatwell app. Now, this code is just for our listeners, and it's for you to try a new salon. Have you ever been on a date where you're trying so hard to just be yourself that suddenly it feels impossible? You start overthinking everything. How to sit normally, what to do with your hands. Then you end up doing something weird like this. Now, let's flip that. I want you to think about how you are when you're with your best friend. It's usually when we're our truest selves. And when you're in that zone, it's actually a great time to meet someone new. In that setting, you're naturally thriving. It's why our sponsor, Tinder, created their new Double Date feature, where you and your bestie can connect with other single pairs. Instead of that high-pressure one-on-one environment, now you're at a group hang. Conversation flows better, and if you stumble, your bestie is literally right there to catch you. If solo dating makes you act like a glitchy version of yourself, invite a friend along. Download Tinder today and try Double Date, because everything is better with your bestie. But now after the company though goes public, it feels as if this is where we start to see a decline. You know, in sales, an increase in losses. So what do you think happened with regard to the demise?
Being really honest, like the way that I'd always run the business over the years was sales first, everything else comes second. If I don't have those sales, I'm not growing that team, I'm not doing this. And that's how I'd always run the business. And that had sort of changed a little bit. You know, we'd end up having, you know, directors in for director's sake. It would just become so big. And there was so much cost involved in being on the stock market. And just in every area of the business, really. And I would say that was the biggest thing. And I think it wasn't just us. You know, if you look at lots of business out there, you know, at the time, Boohoo, ASOS, many businesses, you know, it was starting to decline on the stock market, and there was less interest around fashion businesses post-COVID. So the share price started to decline as well, and we couldn't raise further investment. So I would say it was a combination of things. Even things like, you know, the war in Ukraine and Russia had impacted freight costs, and it had been massive to the business. So like there were so many things that had impacted it that we weren't expecting. And yeah, it started to decline really. Yeah.
But it sounds like it was this court case that exacerbated your mental health issues.
Yeah.
So what was the court case? And from what I understand, you've never talked about this.
I've never talked about it.
This court case.
I shared on social media once I won the case because it become public, and I obviously wanted to clear my name, but I've never really spoken in detail about it. No. So essentially, it came from this person that I met for a coffee back in 2013.
When you were trying to raise money?
When I was trying to raise money.
Okay.
And I told him a little bit about In The Style, and I never heard from him again, obviously. And then I found out he'd registered In The Style Limited. Got legal advice at the time, no problem. You filed for trademark, you've been trading for months already, no issue, carry on. Didn't hear anything again for 8 years.
For 8 years, okay.
And then when the press went out about the business floating on the stock market, I got a legal letter for the first time. And it basically said, you know, we're suing Adam Frisby for £100 million, which is what the valuation was, because he stole this idea from this guy.
My goodness.
Now, at the time, I had no stress about it. It was laughable. You know, my lawyers laughed at it. We laughed at it. And it went on for months, really. And then it started to become real, I would say, after a few months, because we were going back and forth and they weren't dropping it. And we started to get hearings of like court dates and mediation. And I was just a bit like, how is this possible? Because I'm telling the entire truth. There's not a scrap of evidence. Like, how is this possible? But we later learned that because he had witnesses as such, which never came to fruition, and it was such a huge amount of money that it needed to go into the High Court to kind of be settled.
Wow.
So it was probably the end of 2022 when things really started to get bad for me. And that was, the business was declining. The CEO was in position and we weren't really clicking, you know, we just weren't getting on fantastic. I think the business was going in a different route to what I would have steered it. I kind of couldn't direct it because I wasn't the CEO anymore, you know, and I'm not for any reason pinning on him. There was such a combination of things and we all did everything we could at the time. But it got to the end of 2022 and the business was essentially running out of money because the costs were too high and it wasn't performing the way that it had. And the CEO, we had a meeting and the CEO quit. And I was so angry at the time because I thought, how dare you? Like, I've brought you in, you know, it's been a bit of a tough year with decisions that have been made, you know, and you're walking away.
Right.
And I'm now about to go into the High Court in the darkest period of my life. And I've got to now somehow rescue this business from this position. So I did. There was no question. Like, for me, I was like, there's no way I'm going to let my team down. There's no way this business is going. Like, I'm going to have to make something work. And we tried everything to keep it on the stock market, but there was no interest from shareholders. There was no interest from a buyer at all. And the only option was to go private and have someone that kind of bought the shareholders' shares for a much smaller amount of money. And that was the only viable option for anyone. There was nothing else on the table. So ultimately, for this period of 3 months, I had to manage this rescue deal whilst appearing in High Court. And that really was an awful time. It really was.
Did you think at any moment in court that you could lose?
I think it became really real for me. So before the court case, we had to do mediation. And I was told you have to do mediation because the courts see it as a negative if you don't, because you haven't tried to settle this before. Even though I was like, I've got nothing to settle. You know, the guy's lying. What can you do? We had mediation and it obviously didn't go to plan. You know, they turned around and said, give us £10 million. And I was like, I'm not even worth £10 million. That's not how the IPO worked. But obviously, you're completely lying. I'm telling the entire truth. So no. So obviously nothing came of the mediation. And I was told at the mediation something about the press. And they in the mediation, they can't tell you exactly what the other person is saying. They just sort of chat to you about ideas, try and steer it to a place where you can agree something. And something had come up about press and I didn't really understand it. Anyway, the next day, I got a notification from a friend or something and the story had hit the press and it was on the Daily Mail and elsewhere, and it was like Adam Frisby, founder of In the Style, sued for £100 million for stealing the idea off this person. And that really hit me because my story as well, my journey had been so pure. It was so pure, you know, I'd worked so hard and suddenly I could read these comments of like, I can't believe you stole that idea. Like, I trusted this man. And I was like, oh my God. And I think in the lead up to court, although I 100% knew everything I was saying was true, there's that 1% in your mind where you think you read about these things or you hear these horror stories where it's just ruled in someone's favor.
Right.
And I think the hardest part of it was that I was so innocent in the situation and I was working so hard and I had all this going on in the business and I was having to appear on the dock to the judge and answer and essentially being accused by their team as a liar. And I just thought, how have I got to this position? How is this possible? So I'd be lying if I didn't say there wasn't a doubt in my mind where I thought I could lose everything here, unfairly, but I could. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you describe that as a dark period.
Yeah.
Because there's so much happening. So when you check in with your mental health during that time, how would you describe it?
I just remember feeling so like a shell of myself. I couldn't look people in the eye. I couldn't barely leave the house. I just felt awful, and I felt like I was in this horrendous bubble that I just could not get out of. Like, I just couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I'd spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on this court case because I had to defend it. I had no choice. And that was, of course, that was tough as well. And yeah, it was rock bottom. And I think what I really felt at the time, and I remember so clearly, is I felt like a huge failure. I felt like I'd let people down. I felt like I'd let my family down. Even though I had no say in it, even though I did everything I could, the business wasn't working. I was in high court, it was all over the press, and I just thought, I'm ashamed of myself. And I felt that feeling that I felt when I was a young kid. And it was a really, really tough time, and it's taken me a long, long time to recover. But essentially, I went through the high court. Me and Jamie were there for a week, and we waited weeks for the judgment, and it came out obviously, and it's online, and they dismissed it entirely, and they absolutely were damning of him and the lies that he brought to the table, and said I was telling the truth entirely. They didn't find a scrap of evidence. None of his witnesses turned up. It was crazy, and when you look back, you think, how is that even legal? Like, how's that legal? How's that possible? And to this day, I have not had a penny of my cost back. I won everything. I won all my costs, but I've not had a penny back because he's just left the country. And yeah, it's no crime. It's no crime. It's just crazy.
So in essence, he's forced you to fork over hundreds of thousands of pounds, not even including what it's done to you mentally, physically. And there's no retribution.
And what's crazy is, if it was someone claiming that on insurance and they got found to be lying, they'd be in prison. But because it's a business claim, there's no repercussion other than obviously him having to pay the costs. And yeah, he's just gone missing. So I've not had a penny back. At the time when I won, everyone was like, congratulations, like, well done. And I just thought, but how is it congratulations? It didn't feel like a win because all I'd done is kind of just got that little bit of my life back that should never have happened.
Right.
I remember it being so bad at one point that I remember even having conversations with Jamie and just saying to Jamie, like, you don't have to be here, you can go and find someone else, you could go and do something else. Because I just didn't know how I would come back from where I was, if that made sense. I could barely leave the house. So I just thought it's not fair what I'm putting him through as well. Of course, he said, don't be stupid. And he supported me for everything. I wouldn't have done it I wouldn't be able to do it without him. But it was a really, really dark time, yeah.
That's incredible to think that you were, in essence, going to sacrifice your love, the love of your life, because you felt that low.
Yeah. I just felt like it wasn't fair on him, and I didn't see a route out, if that made sense. And I just thought, isn't how I wanted my life to be, and it isn't how I wanted his to be. And I could see him trying so hard to help me and support me, and none of it was, not enough, but none of it could help, if that made sense. It was a really tough time. Yeah.
So you're dealing with this personally, right? You're battling with, in essence, telling your partner you can leave, but then you're also trying to run this business.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah.
So what then happens with the business?
It wasn't even just running the business. It was in such a bad place that we were having to do this kind of rescue deal with this new investment company. So it had ultimately failed at this point, really. And I was just doing everything I can, which I'm really proud of now looking back, that I did that. At the time, I felt like a huge failure, but now I'm really proud of how I kind of did in the darkest times, step back in and made sure that everyone around me was okay. I didn't care about me at the time at all. I cared about the staff, the team, everything. So we essentially did a deal, and the business went back private. An investment company came in, and yeah, it was a really tough time because obviously people had lost money on the stock market. People had bought shares at a higher value and had, the business had sold at a less value, so they'd lost money. And while I was going through the court case and this rescue deal, I was starting to get real bad sort of like death threats through social media, like Twitter, Instagram, because obviously these people are like on forums, trying to make money and whatnot. And it got really bad. And we would get messages like, obviously you faggot, we know your address, we're going to come for your family. Like it was really horrible. And I think at the time it was scary because we didn't know how much of this was threats and how much of it was, could be real. So there was a lot hitting us at the time. But we got through it, and after a couple of months, the noise started to calm down a little bit in terms of those people, and my focus was making sure that business survived. So I worked really hard, and we got it back to profitability.
Wow. Okay.
Over a 6-month period, and I then sort of had a conversation with the investment company at the time and said, look, we spoke about this when you came on board, but I can't be the CEO long term because I am a shell of myself. I didn't actually say that to them. I just said, it's not kind of what I want to do right now. I know it didn't work before, but we'll bring in the right person. I don't want any salary. Like, I don't need it. I don't want anything. I'll do everything for this business still. And they were like, okay, but give me more shares from me. And at the time, I was like, whatever it takes, because I had to go and fix my mental health. Like I just could not cope anymore. So that was the conversation we had. And I think that was when I realized that things probably weren't going to work out the way that I'd hoped.
When you say not work out how you hope, how did you?
I think for me, I'd hoped that I would always be part of In The Style for the rest of my life. Like it was my baby. I loved it so much. And although towards the end, I had a very love-hate relationship with it because it brought me so much trauma, like over the years, but I loved it so much as well. And I hoped that I would always be part of it. But I think I realized at that point that the people I was working with were not morally the way that I work. And I started to think, right, okay, let's see. But essentially I carried on. I started work. I was working. I wasn't being paid. I'd given up the salary. That didn't matter. I just wanted the business to be okay. And I brought in an MD. And I'd just say things started to slowly happen that were not right. And that was things like, people not being paid properly. I was having calls from suppliers, long-term suppliers that I'd worked with, who were crying down the phone to me saying, Adam, we're not having this paid, we're begging, we're doing this work. And I was helpless because the difference when being on the stock market was I was still the biggest shareholder. So although I didn't have the majority, I was the biggest shareholder, and everyone had lots of small shareholdings.
Right.
When they bought the majority from the stock market, they became the majority shareholder. So although I was respected initially, and I was ultimately the heart of the business, I didn't have a say. If they wanted to not pay someone, they would not pay someone. I didn't even have access to the FD. So I started to really raise the flag and just say, look, this is not right. I'm not comfortable, in this position. And things just got worse. They just got worse. The lack of respect was there. It was really challenging because at the time, the staff, the team really saw me as the guy there, and
Yes.
I think they had a lot of comfort in me being there, and they didn't really know this new team. And I really,
what are the customers also saying at this point?
and the customers as well. Like the customers didn't really feel this. They didn't really feel any of this because ultimately our goal was just to make sure the business stayed okay, and we bought the collections, we did everything we could, so that the customers didn't really see this firsthand, if that makes sense. But I think the reason I stayed so long after this was because A, I loved the business, I wanted to be part of it, but B, the team and the customers, the people that had followed my journey and supported this business from day one and over the years. But yeah, I think one of the big things that happened was I kind of found out via a member of the team ringing me, and they said, Adam, we're going to lose our jobs. Like the business is being sold. And I was like, no, it's not. And I looked online, and essentially when I signed over some paperwork to give some more shares back to them, they'd released this press that we were doing a deal and they were going back on the stock market. And yeah, doing this big deal. And I rung, I rung the guy. I won't go into the ins and outs of the conversation. It wasn't a good one. And essentially I said, how dare you do this? I don't know anything about this. This is my business that I love. My team are worried, like, what's going on? And I just was like, this just isn't me. I got my lawyers involved and I said, look, I don't want to leave this business. It's everything to me, but I need them to run this business in the right way. And in the end, I sent a letter of resignation to them. I surrendered all of my shares, which I got nothing for. And I left. And I never heard back from that note ever. And I obviously stayed in contact with the team, and I did everything I could before I kind of released a statement to say that I'd parted ways with the business. And it was really tough. For me, that was a decision that I had to be a breaking point to make. And I really was, after everything I'd gone through and then the business to be running this way, it just felt so wrong. And I was like, if I can't steer this in the right way, I'm going to go and I'm going to speak my truth and I'm going to tell people, because that's just not me. I'm just not that person. So yeah, I left, and that was September 2023. Yeah. In December last year, I recorded a podcast, and I did it with Jamie to kind of speak my truth, really. And I thought, this makes sense with Jamie. I was getting questions every day about what had gone on. And I thought, I don't want people to think that I've just walked away from something that I love, because I really didn't. It was so much bigger than that. So I did the podcast, and I put out that I was obviously doing it, and I got a legal letter, I think about 10 p.m. the night it was due to go out. And it came from the company, and just basically, the investment company, and just said, if you essentially put this out, we will be taking court action. And I spoke to my lawyers, and they were like, look, you've got some clauses in your contract at this point where, they could try and do this. And do you really want to go through another 2-year court battle when you've just been through what you've been through? So we pulled the podcast and we put out a statement, which, to be honest with you, it did what it needed to do, because people trusted me and Jamie. They could read between the lines. They could see these other people speaking up about it.
Right.
But it was really hard at the time, because I'd kind of been shut from speaking my truth. And I kind of carried that for a long time, really, because I wanted to tell people. But luckily, we've got such a supportive community on like Instagram and socials in general, and the word got out and people supported, and it was an amazing amount of support that we got from that.
And how are you able to speak today legally?
So there's lots of things happened since then. Time is a big thing. The business then got put into administration a few months later. I kind of stayed in touch with a lot of the team, and I tried to help as much as I could with new jobs, and like the new business that I'm working on are all in the style people, which I'm really pleased about. But yeah, the business essentially went into administration, so it changes things a little bit. It got different ownership structure now. I don't even know if it's still trade, and it's very strange the setup, but it changed things really. And also, this wasn't about coming in and damning a particular person, or it was just really the reality of what happened at the time.
Yes. And it also sounds like you wanted to speak to the community, the in the community, just to set the record straight.
Yeah.
No regrets?
No regrets. I don't think I can have any regrets. At the time, absolutely. I really struggled, but I think, therapy and lots of conversations later, I have no regrets for what I did. I stayed true to myself, and I did the right thing.
Yeah. What an incredible story.
Yeah, thank you.
What an incredible story to look at, not only what you were able to achieve, but how you were able to stay to your moral compass.
Yeah.
Regardless of what was happening.
Yeah.
And then also how you were tested throughout that.
Sure, yeah.
But one person that remains consistent in that story that we haven't spent the time that we need to spend on is Jamie.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So throughout, it seems like Jamie has always been perhaps your first safe space. But something you said earlier in the conversation that I want to revisit is you mentioned you didn't feel comfortable yet being a gay man until you were with Jamie.
Yeah.
Now, what I find interesting in this research is that you were not an anomaly, right? So in the UK, 70% of LGBT plus young adults said they felt ashamed of being LGBT plus,
Yeah.
with 74% of gay men saying this.
Yeah.
So would you say that was you until you met Jamie?
Yeah, to a T. Yeah, exactly that. And that, I would say that surprises me, but it doesn't, obviously, because that's how I felt, and I know others do. So yeah, I would say until I met Jamie, that's definitely how I felt. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was it about Jamie that allowed you to tap into your authenticity?
I think with him, I am just obviously 100% myself. I'm just, me. And I think I always try and steer away from ever saying that somebody completes you, because, you shouldn't ever need someone to complete you. But I do truly feel like that with Jamie. I feel like he just completed my life, and he just allowed me to be comfortable, to kind of just do what I want to do. Like with the business, I always say I would never probably even started it if I wasn't in a comfortable relationship with someone that supported me and I knew that I could rely on and speak to,
Yes.
So that is huge for me. And yeah, we just have such a huge level of trust, respect, love, that it just has made me feel like I can be myself. Yeah, it completes me. Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. And also what you just mentioned, as far as you would never have started this business,
Yeah.
this uberly successful business, without knowing that you had Jamie as a partner. But what you often hear in pop culture is first build the business,
Yeah,
then find the partner.
Yeah, he came on board with Masala after 3 months, so we really worked together for a long time.
Look at that.
And yeah, I think sometimes I look back and think I couldn't have done it without him. So for me, I think it's just the foundations of having someone that helps you believe in yourself, and the support, knowing you've got that behind you is such a huge thing. And some people might find that in family and parents and things, but for me, that was Jamie.
Adam, you ready for your next surprise?
Okay, maybe.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to read that out loud.
Out loud, okay. Adam, my bean, this is what Jamie always calls me. I can't believe we're finally here at the very beginning of the most incredible journey of our lives. After everything we've been through, every hard conversation, every moment of hope and heartbreak, every maybe one day, we're doing it. We're really going to be dads. There were times when it felt like this dream might just stay that, but we kept pushing forward. We held on to belief that love and determination would one day get us here, and now standing on the edge of this new chapter, I can honestly say that every tear and every moment of doubt was worth it. You and I have built a life full of love, laughter and strength, and now we get to share all of that with someone new, a tiny someone we already love more than words can say. I'm so excited to see you become the amazing dad I know you'll be. Patient, funny, gentle, and full of heart. I'm so proud of you, Adam. And I can't wait to walk hand in hand with you through this next part of our story. We've got this as always together. After 14 years, it still amazes me how lucky I am to have found you. Not just someone to love, but my true soulmate. For every high and low, you've been my constant, my calm, my joy. Loving you has never felt like a task. It's felt normal from day one. So thank you for being my person every single day. I adore you. Someone else also wants to say something. Dear daddies, I've been waiting for you for so long, and now that I'm finally here, I just want you to know how much I really love you. Thank you for never giving up on me, even when things felt hard. You are so strong, and I feel safe and loved just knowing you're my parents. I can't wait to meet you and start this amazing journey together. We're going to have so many beautiful moments, and I promise to always be your little miracle. Yeah, that was very special.
Yeah. So Jamie wrote that.
Yeah. He doesn't write a lot of things either, so I'm really impressed.
So that's your letter.
Oh, thank you.
That is your letter.
Yeah, it's I feel so lucky to have Jamie and be on this journey with him. Really, I really do. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say incredibly special person.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, what I'll do is let me hold on to that for you, but I will give this to you since this is your letter.
Yeah.
Is I find that writing a letter is one of the most intimate acts.
Yeah.
Have you ever received a letter from Jamie before?
Have I received a letter from Jamie before? I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I was thinking back in the early days, but no, I don't think I've ever received a letter. And you're right. I think reading something, my friend wrote me a letter a few years ago, and I still have it. And it's so meaningful. I think sometimes when you see someone written something down, you can read it and keep it. It's really powerful. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And what I also love about that letter is he's able to express himself fully, and you're able to receive it fully.
Yeah.
And then you always have it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Like you'll always have it.
Yeah.
Now, that last paragraph,
Yeah.
Jamie said someone else wrote that.
Yeah.
Who wrote that last paragraph?
Well, we're having a baby, me and Jamie. So our future baby, which just feels crazy to say out loud. Yeah.
So you're going to be a dad?
We're going to be a dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to be dads. And yeah, it's crazy. It's such a surreal moment because we have been trying for 5 years, I would say. I wanted this all my life, but it was something I thought I never could. And probably I'd say for the last 8-9 years, me and Jamie have talked about it. And for the last 5, we have been trying to make it happen. And, now we are going to be dads, yeah, which just feels incredible.
It feels incredible.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the type of fathers you will both be.
Thank you.
And
I think as well, like, what's really big for me is it almost gives me a chance to be the person that I needed when I was young. And I think for me, that is such a, I always knew I wanted to bring kids. And I think that is one of the reasons why. I was just like, I know that I've got so much love to give and I want to do everything that my parents perhaps didn't do. And yeah, that feels really special to be in this moment, knowing we're going to welcome a baby into the world that's going to change our lives forever. Yeah.
Yes. Now you said you and Jamie have been trying for 5 years.
Yeah.
So how have you been trying for the 5 years?
So me and Jamie obviously are having a baby via surrogacy, and we're doing it in America. And we signed up to do this 5 years ago. Signed up sounds strange, but yeah, we joined the agency 5 years ago to say, look, we want to try and do this. And it's taken that long to get to this point. We've had lots of challenges. We got pregnant and we sadly miscarried. The lady surrogate pulled out. We had to go back into the kind of waiting time. We had to match with someone. There's legals. Like, it's just been so complicated. And there was times where we thought maybe this just isn't for us. Like, as in maybe it's just not meant to happen for us in life. We can't force it. I'm 38, Jamie's 37, and it's like, is this ever going to happen? And then this year it did, it's been incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. So a few questions on surrogacy. So this is a topic that I'm fascinated by.
Yeah.
So first is why you and Jamie live in the UK.
Yes.
So why go to the United States versus the UK?
Yeah. So the biggest reason for us is UK same-sex parental laws are not yet where they are in America. So to give you a view of that, so if we had a surrogate in the UK and let's say they're not the baby's DNA, so we use an egg donor, but they're just the carrier of the baby, they are legally the parent of the child. And if they've got a partner, so is their partner. They are the mum and dad or the mum and mum, whatever. So we are not technically legal parents, and we have to then adopt the baby at birth, and we have to go through a court to get a parent order to become the legal parents. And that can take months, sometimes even longer. And although I don't know if there is cases of it, the surrogate can technically change their mind at any point and say they would want to keep the baby.
Even after birth?
Even after birth, yeah. And you would have to like go through a legal battle with it. So, and there's also you can't have a legally binding surrogacy contract in the UK. So it's very different. Whereas in America, everything is from day one. So me and Jamie, use an agency. We are the legal intended parents from day one, and that never changes. And I think for us, we are fortunate financially to be able to kind of go to America, which has been great. And we just felt it was a safer option for us, and one that we understood the process throughout and we were legally protected.
Yes.
And that was why, really, yeah.
Yeah. You talked about the laws here. So it was only in 2005, so not that long ago, where it became legal for same-sex couples to adopt children in the UK.
To adopt, yeah.
Yeah. So you think that was not that long ago.
Yeah.
And then with regard to the United States, in 2023, so recent, surrogates in the U.S. were typically paid $30,000 to $80,000, which is 22 to 60,000 pounds. So to your point, you need resources in order to do that. Now, how does the process work? Like, how are you matched? I've read stories where people are finagling with genetics, and so how does the whole process work?
So in America, particularly, it is a strange setup in the sense of you work with a agency for the surrogate, you work with an agency for the egg donor, and you ultimately work with the clinic to do your embryos and stuff. And we ended up not deep in it too much and just went with like the genetics and their family history and things like that, really.
Wow. So what are the options if you wanted to go deep? What are the options?
Like you can, choose nationality, you can choose skin color, you can choose an eye color, you can choose certain genetics. Like it's crazy. And don't get me wrong, it's not endless. Like, to be a surrogate or to be an egg donor, you have to go through medical checks. You have to, so there's lots of that happening. But yeah, ultimately you do choose your egg donor.
Can you choose intelligence?
Yeah, you do find out like IQs and stuff. Yeah, you do. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. But we got a little bit overwhelmed with it because obviously you're like, okay, so if they've got blue eyes, it might be like this. And in the end, you think that you could just go all day with this. So we kind of just looked at family history and illnesses and genetics and was like, we want to go with someone we think is healthy, well, obviously very healthy, and that we think is going to work. We didn't end up going too deep into like exact looks and things like that because it just didn't feel right. So we did our egg donor, obviously produced her eggs, and me and Jamie produced our sperm. And in America, they, do what they need to do and they become embryos. And we ended up with 11 healthy embryos.
Look at that.
Yeah.
But now I would imagine it's just one sperm per embryo.
Yes, exactly.
So how do you know if it's yours or Jamie's?
So biologically, obviously, it's going to be one of ours. And we don't know is the truth. We don't know. So this first baby, I say first because who knows what the future holds.
Okay.
I mean, let's see how we get on. But I think with this baby, we kind of said, look, we want it to be a surprise. And we literally did a heads and tails. And the clinic matched it to male and female. And yeah, so we have got no idea what gender we are or who they're biologically connected to.
Wow.
Which is special because it's going to be a surprise, but also to me and Jamie, like it really doesn't matter. We are the dads, of course, in their lives, and I love the bones of Jamie and vice versa. And to me, it doesn't matter to me at all, and it doesn't matter to him, which is what's special, I think. And it took a while. Like it was hard at first because I thought, if you're a typical straight couple, obviously you've got the genes of both your mum and dad, whereas with us, it can't have one of ours. It can't. And but we're just so grateful to be on this journey. It's going to be so loved and we're just so happy with it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So with the surrogacy, so once you have the embryos created and then the actual surrogacy, the surrogate is the carrier in essence of the child.
Yeah.
Are you in touch? Do you meet the surrogate?
Yeah.
Do you communicate?
Yeah. So we matched with a surrogate about 4 years ago. And for whatever reason, things took a long time, and we went over and met her, and it was great. She took a while to kind of pass medicals and stuff, which delayed things for quite a while. And then, as I say, last year we finally got pregnant with one of our embryos. But it was really short-lived, like 3 or 4 days, and they did a test and realised that it wasn't growing the way it should, and therefore she miscarried. And then, unfortunately, she pulled out of the process at that point. I didn't really get a chance to speak to her afterwards. I tried, but she just pulled out. So, yeah, I think maybe too much pressure. I don't know, which meant that me and Jamie had to rematch again, which was really scary for us because we'd gone so far and we'd had that joy and then that heartbreak. And then we were back in the process of trying to match. And they said to us it could be up to 18 months again to match. And then when you match, you've got 6 months of medicals and legals. So it was 2 years away again.
Goodness.
So we were like, oh my God. But luckily they managed to find us. They set us up on a few like phone calls initially, like FaceTimes you do. And just sort of see how you connect with them. And then we connected with one really well. We flew out to meet her. Really liked her. She was great. And then luckily she passed medical really quickly. We got legal through really quickly. And by April this year, she was in for our embryo transfer. And then since then, we've been going out for secret scans. We flew to America for because the one thing me and Jamie really want to do was, it can feel really distant if you want it to. Like, you know, they're in America, they're carrying the baby, we're in the UK. Like, it can feel really distant. And we were like, we really want to feel this bond with our baby from day one. Like, you know, it's important to us. So we've flown out for the scans to America. We're flying our surrogate over to the UK for our gender reveal. And then we're doing our 20-week scan here in the UK. And obviously we fly back out there for the birth and stuff. So yeah, we've tried to make it as positive as we can and connect as we can. And it's been really special for us, yeah.
Yeah, and I can imagine that makes her feel safer, right? There's more of an intimate connection.
Yeah.
I would imagine all of that has an impact on the child.
Yeah. You would hope. Yeah, you would hope so. And she said to us, actually, the surrogate, she said that she almost didn't connect with us because she didn't want to have something that felt distant to her. So obviously, being in a different country was scary. But she sort of like looked at her profiles and thought she'll have a chat. And once she met us, she said, I could just tell that you really wanted to be involved, and that made all the difference. So yeah, and I feel really lucky that we were able to do it in this way. But if I couldn't do it in America, I 100% would still look to do it in the UK, and I wouldn't want it to put anyone off because it's such a special thing, and I think things need to change in terms of the law. But so many people do it successfully, and it's an amazing thing. So I would have still, you know, done it in the UK, but fortunately for me and Jamie, we were able to kind of do this process. Yeah.
Just one last question on the process is, so when the surrogate gives birth, you were there. You and Jamie were there.
Yeah.
So from that moment, the child is handed to you and Jamie.
Yeah. So I think the probably the most difficult part of it is that when the baby's due, we have to fly out obviously a couple of weeks before, and we're there for probably 6 weeks while we wait for the baby's passport. So that's tough because obviously we're in a different country. We've got to find our feet with a new baby and get everything they need, and, you know, no family around. So, and you want to be at home, you know, once you've had a baby. So that's tough, but it's a small price for us to pay, you know, to start a family. So yeah, we fly over to America in January, obviously, which is when our baby's due.
And then you both are dads.
And then we're dads, and yeah, life's about to get really real. Yeah,
life is about to get real. I'm here to tell you, life is about to get real.
What I've learned so far, so just going back slightly, is already from announcing that we're having a baby, you know, there's been online articles that have had horrendous comments on it, and it has already made me so protective because it's not just me and Jamie anymore. It's not just us. It's like we've got a baby here.
Really? Can we? I didn't realize.
Yeah.
So some people are negatively commenting
on our social media, on our announcement. It's been absolutely lovely, you know, brilliant. But there was an online article and it had over 2,500 horrendous comments on it.
2,500.
2,500. Yeah.
Saying what?
Child abusers, paedophiles, sex traffickers, disgusting, stealing babies from mums. It was awful to read it. Me and Jamie are really strong, and I can back those things off. But I think it just reminded me that we're bringing a baby into the world, and there is so many people with those views, and that's scary. And that's why I was most nervous about announcing it, because I know some people don't believe in it, you know. But ultimately, I look at it and think, you know, we're certainly not stealing a baby. You know, it's our DNA with an egg donor. A surrogate is carrying it. We're really grateful to her, but she's not a DNA connection to the baby. And we're bringing a child into the world that is going to have so much love. My biggest fear in life is that I'm not a good dad. And I think I have that fear because I didn't have that as a child. And I just would hate the idea of like not having a loving home, meaning that I don't have that to give, and I know I do, and I know Jamie and everyone thinks that I do, and I know that I will, but I think that's my fear. And we've got so many great people around us. We've had so much experience with our goddaughters, and I'm really excited by it.
Yeah, that's one category I have zero doubt.
Yeah, thank you.
I have zero doubt. You both will be winning Father of the Year consistently. I have no doubt. Truly, I have no doubt on that. Can we talk about the new business?
Sure. Yeah.
Because this is such an exciting time for you.
Yeah.
Not only are you about to welcome a child, and you and Jamie are stronger than ever, and you have all of these, I think, you've reflected well on in the style in your tenure there.
Yeah.
So now you both are launching a new business.
Yeah. We are both launching a new business, and I'm really excited. Well, I say we both. So I'm launching it with, I've got a new business partner, which I'm going to be doing this with, which is exciting. It's a bit of a different dynamic to what In the Style was. And Jamie is, he's involved in it fully. He's supportive all the way with me. And I'm really excited because from where I was when I left In the Style, and I was such a shell of myself, I now am in a completely different place, and I've got so much purpose back from doing this. And I think if I hadn't done this again, I would have been a bit lost with what I was doing. So I'm really excited, and it's going to have all the values of what I had it In the Style, all the things I care about, inclusivity, like, women empowerment, people feeling positive and confident in what they're wearing. So I'm really, really proud of what we're doing. And to me, it feels like, I don't know if the word's a comeback, but it does feel a little bit like that. I kind of hit rock bottom, and I walked away from my business that I loved. And for me, this is a brand new journey, a new door opening, and a bit of a comeback for me. And that feels quite special, Yeah,
I love it. I love it. I love it for you.
Thank you, yeah.
I could see that you were ready.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that a lot of people told me, Paul, right before my wife and I had kids, you're going to have kids, it's going to slow you down.
Yeah.
Not at all. Right.
Yeah.
It is fuel.
Yeah.
Just as your nan was fuel. Right. They are fuel.
Yeah. I 100% feel that as well. Like already, I feel like when I think about things, I think we're doing this for our family. So I feel that, and I can imagine what that will feel like. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Last question for you, Adam.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone gets this.
Okay.
Can't wait to hear your answer.
Yeah.
When you think back through all of the incredible conversations you've had in your life.
Yeah.
What stands out as the most memorable? Who was it with? And what did you learn?
Gosh, that's a really tricky one. I think the thing that probably stands out the most to me in life is just probably the conversations that I used to have with my nan. And I think one in particular, when I was around 16 years old and I was going to live with my dad, and I obviously had come out of school with no qualifications and stuff. And she just said to me, just believe in yourself and you can do anything in life. And I think that always stuck with me, because I essentially did do that. And listen, I don't sit here and say, God, I've done this, I've done that. I don't feel that way. But I do think, I really believed in myself at times. And that helped path my future and kind of get me to where I was with the business and with Jamie and everything. I think that really stands out as a conversation that I'll always remember, that drives me to do things, and is really special to me. Yeah, and definitely something that I'm going to really take on to speak to my future child about. Yeah, and let them know that put their mind to it and they can do anything. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
When I think about your journey, when you first came onto my radar, you came onto my radar as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, sure.
As a businessman.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And I think that for many people, that's how you register.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that your ultimate legacy is going to be phenomenal dad.
Thank you.
I truly do.
Yeah.
I can see that everything that's happened in your life
mm-hmm.
has led you
yeah.
to this point.
Yeah.
And has led you to understand what you should and should not do.
Yeah.
Your story is also one of someone who stands on principle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's very important in conscious parenting.
Yeah, definitely.
And so you have the makings to me to be a phenomenal dad. And I think that's going to be your legacy.
Thank you. And I really feel like, when me and Jamie post our announcement, it wasn't about, posting it on social, it doesn't matter, but just sharing it to the world was such a huge moment for us. And this last week or so has just been like, it felt like everything I've done in life has kind of led me to this, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And it really feels like a change is coming and a chapter's changing. And I hope that what you said is true, and that's now what's important to me. And I feel like everything I've learned in life has kind of led me to be a dad, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, look at that. Well, Adam Frisby, you came here to talk, and talk we did.
We did. Thank you, Paul.
We did. Thank you so much. Frisby, epic surname. Man, all I can say is Adam is going to be the most incredible father on the planet. And the fact that he is most concerned about being a great dad is why I know he will be a great dad. That was shocking. That was shocking, especially in 2025, that there is such a high level of misunderstanding. And I think a lot of this is because there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation around same-sex parents. But 2,000 comments is just ridiculous. If the UK is interested in having more or higher rates of surrogacy here, then laws have to change. Adam has been on my radar for quite a bit, but I've only known him as this entrepreneur, like this business guy. Like that's all I heard. This business guy that works with influencers. I had no idea the fullness of his story. His childhood, my God. The trauma that Adam went through as a child repeatedly, is something that no child should go through. When he talked about being 15 and his mother and his mother's boyfriend giving him 50 quid and basically kicking, 50p. Oh my God, 50p. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you really thought about how you love? Not who, but how. Most of us don't. We're moving fast, doing life, hoping love just shows up and sticks. But that's not how real connection works. So I've created something different. It's called Love Better, and I'm taking it on tour. A live experience for anyone who wants to build deeper, more meaningful connection. We'll unpack the lessons from the couples you've seen me coach. I'll share stories I've never told on camera, and you'll walk away with tools you could use right away. This isn't a show you just sit back and watch. It's a night of honesty, insight, music, and connection designed to make you walk away with something real. Come solo, bring a partner, bring your crew, everyone's welcome. But seats are limited, and they will go. Tickets are on sale right now at livenation.co.uk. I can't wait to see you there.